Unaware his wife had secretly inherited $200 million, he forced her to sign a prenup believing she was a gold digger. What happens next will shock you. He didn't just ask her to prove her love. He slid a thick stack of legal papers across their small kitchen table 5 days before the wedding, stared into the eyes of the woman who adored him, and said in a cold voice, "If you're really here for love, sign the prenup." That morning, Elena Turner's hands shook as she picked up the pen. Her fiancé, Marcus Ward, sat opposite her with his best friend leaning in the doorway, watching like a guard. Marcus had already decided she might be a gold digger. He had already listened to whispers from his friend, quiet hints from a concerned coworker, and the old fear from a past heartbreak. What he didn't know, what he never even thought to ask, was that the quiet woman in front of him had already inherited $200 million from her late parents and had spent her whole life hiding it, just to be loved for who she was, not what she owned. The prenup in front of her was harsh and one-sided, written to protect his small savings and future earnings. Buried inside, it was one key clause he insisted on. If the husband commits adultery, this agreement is void. Marcus inserted it to make himself feel moral and safe. Elena noticed it, hesitated, and still signed. She signed the prenup out of love. He took it as proof he was safe. After the wedding, everything cracked. Marcus stayed out late. The security cameras he had installed for safety when they first moved in so he could protect her silently recorded the night he slapped her in the hallway for daring to ask, "Who is Riley?" In the weeks that followed, that same footage would leave the building's security room, travel through a careful chain of hands, and land on the desk of Attorney Hale, the seasoned lawyer who had once promised her dying father he would protect her interests. He would open a file with Elena's name on it and begin building a case Marcus never saw coming. He thought the prenup made him untouchable. He thought she would walk away with nothing. He thought he knew exactly who the gold digger was. He was wrong. Dear viewers, thank you for being here. If you leave without subscribing, it's like letting Elena's voice be ignored all over again. When you hit that button, you stand with everyone who was doubted, betrayed, and still chose to rise. Please subscribe now and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The quiet office shook with the weight of a single question. Are you ready, Elena? Attorney Hale's voice cut through the air like a blade sharp, not from anger, but from the seriousness of a life-changing moment. The stack of documents on the polished wooden table felt heavier than paper had any right to feel, as if every page carried the memory of her past and the uncertainty of her future. Elena Turner, 27 years old, soft-spoken, graceful, thoughtful, stood there looking younger than the responsibility in front of her. To the world, she appeared ordinary, a woman with a quiet smile, modest clothes, and gentle manners. No one would guess she was about to become the legal owner of a $200 million family estate. No one would guess she had spent most of her life hiding behind simplicity. But this office knew. Attorney Hale knew. Clara knew. Clara Bennett, 32, her financial advisor, with firm eyes and a calm presence, stood beside her. Clara had been managing the Turner family assets since Elena was a teenager. She understood the weight of what Elena carried, the legacy, the trauma, and the responsibility of wealth she never asked for. As Elena sat down, her fingers brushed the edge of the first document. A spark of pain crossed her eyes. It wasn't fear, it was memory. A flashback burst open inside her. She was 16 again, kneeling beside her father's hospital bed. Henry Turner, once a powerful, respected businessman, looked small and fragile beneath white sheets. His hand trembled as he reached for hers. "Listen to me," he whispered, fighting for breath. "Men will love you for 2 reasons, Elena, for your heart or for your money." Tears clung to his lashes. "If a man loves your money more than he loves your soul, he will destroy you. Hide this fortune until you are absolutely certain. Don't reveal it to any man until his character has been tested." Back then, it didn't feel like advice. It felt like a warning from the future. The flashback faded. Elena blinked, returning to the present with tears warming her eyes. Attorney Hale, mid-50 seconds, with silver hair and a voice that carried authority, watched her gently. He had known her father. He had buried him. He had promised to protect her interests when the old man passed. "Elena," he said quietly. Today, you sign the final transfer. After this, the Turner estate, all $200 million of it, is legally yours. It will remain in your name alone, separate from any future spouse, unless you choose otherwise. She nodded slowly. I know. But inside her chest, her heart beat with fear, not pride. Clara stepped closer, her tone soft. It's okay to be nervous. Your father left this to you because he trusted your judgment. We've structured everything so none of this mixes with any joint account unless you allow it. Elena smiled weakly. I just never wanted money to shape my relationships, especially not with Marcus. There it was, the name the audience needed to hear. Marcus Ward, her fiancé, a man she loved, a man she believed in. But recently, a man who had begun acting differently. She remembered small things, Marcus asking why she dressed modestly despite her good job, reacting oddly when she changed the subject about her parents, making jokes about people who pretend to be simple to trap someone better off. They were small hints, but she felt them like cold drafts entering a warm room. Attorney Hale folded his hands, eyes sharpening with seriousness. Elena, your father warned you for a reason. Wealth attracts attention, and not always the good kind. Before you marry Marcus, you must be certain he loves you, not what he thinks you own, Clara added. Does Marcus know anything about the trust? The estate? This was not a casual question. It was the question. The room seemed to hold its breath. Elena exhaled, slow and shaky. No, I never told him. Clara watched her closely. Why not? Elena lowered her eyes. Because he should love me for me. Not for the Turner name. Not for the inheritance. When Marcus looks at me, I want him to see his future wife. Not a bank account. It was pure. It was naive. And it was exactly why the audience connected instantly. Attorney Hale nodded but kept his tone firm. Then listen carefully. Do not reveal this yet, not until you are sure he is loyal, honest, and emotionally stable. Your father was right, people change when they smell wealth, Elena swallowed. Marcus isn't like that. Even she didn't sound fully convinced. She reached for the pen, her hand trembled. She signed the inheritance documents, finalizing her position as a multimillionaire secretly. The moment the pen left the paper, something shifted in the air. A sense of danger. A sense that her hidden world was on a collision course with Marcus's insecurities. Clara gently touched Elena's arm. Elena, I need to ask you something important. Elena lifted her eyes. Does Marcus ever question you? Your background? Your savings? Anything like that? Elena hesitated. A dangerous hesitation. Then she whispered, yes. Lately he has. Clara and Attorney Hale exchanged a look, silent, heavy. This was the first sign, the first crack, the first warning that would lead into the next disaster. Clara leaned in. Does Marcus know you're here today? That you're signing these documents? Elena shook her head. And does he know about your inheritance at all? Clara pressed. Elena smiled gently. Too gently. No, and I want it to stay that way. At least until after we're married, and I'm sure. Marcus must love me for me. The room fell silent. Then the office door buzzer rang at reception. A second later, her phone lit up. Marcus, we need to talk when you get home. A cold ripple ran through her. Something was coming. Far away, Marcus stared at his own screen. Doubt in his eyes, doubt that would soon grow into suspicion strong enough to poison everything. The laughter in the bar died the moment David leaned forward. His words cut through the noise like a knife, sharp enough to make Marcus freeze mid-sip. Bro, David said, lowering his voice. You better be careful with Elena. Women like that, they don't just show up out of nowhere unless they're after something. The intensity hit instantly, sudden, heavy, unexpected. Marcus blinked, caught off guard. David Foster, 30, loud, confident, always ready with an opinion, was not the type to speak softly unless he believed something serious. He had been Marcus's closest friend since college, loyal in his own messy way, but reckless with suspicion. Marcus tried to laugh it off. Come on, man. Elena isn't like that. David shrugged, swirling his drink. You don't know that. What do you really know about her background? Her family? Her money situation? You said yourself she barely talks about any of it. That's not normal, bro. That's careful. A spark of unease flickered in Marcus's chest. He didn't like admitting it, but Elena was private. She never talked much about her wealthy-looking childhood, but she also never claimed it was poor. She didn't brag about achievements. She didn't show off money. She dressed simply, even though she worked a good job. At first, Marcus thought it was humility. Now David was calling it a red flag. The bar lights dimmed as he thought. His hand tightened around his glass. David leaned closer. You're doing well, Marcus. Good salary, stable job, promotion on the way. You've told me that yourself. Women notice that. You're marrying her soon. You sure she's marrying you for you? This time the words didn't just land, they sank. Reflection seeped in slowly. Elena's soft smile flashed through his mind. The way she laughed when she cooked. The way she slipped her hand into his while they walked. The way she never asked for designer things, never pushed for a bigger ring, never complained about his small apartment. Was that humility? Or was it calculated? A way to look harmless? Was she genuinely simple? Or was she hiding something? He hated that David's words made some sense. Marcus stared into his glass, and a memory he'd kept buried cracked open. Flashback years earlier. A younger Marcus, heartbroken, stood in an empty apartment. His ex-girlfriend, Sabrina, had left him after draining thousands from his savings. Her last words echoed, "If you won't share your money, what good are you?" The wound from that betrayal never fully healed. Now David's voice blended with old pain. David wasn't trying to ruin his life. Marcus believed he was trying to protect him. His phone buzzed. A message from Riley. Riley Adams, 28, his co-worker. Smart, charming, always polished. She worked in the same department, knew his promotion track, and seemed to understand his stress. She was just a friend, someone who'd been lingering at the edges of his life for months, offering support, slipping advice between smiles. Riley, if you're marrying her, protect yourself. Some women pretend to be sweet. Marcus's breath caught. Now it wasn't just David. Now someone who hardly knew Elena was saying the same thing. He typed slowly, "You really think so?" Riley replied almost instantly, "Just looking out for you. You've worked too hard to lose everything. Not everyone is as genuine as they seem." Something inside Marcus shifted, small, but powerful. A seed of doubt planted itself in soil already cracked by history. David clapped him on the back. "Just watch yourself, bro. Last thing you want is to marry a gold digger." Gold digger. The word rattled through Marcus's chest. He washed down the uneasiness with the rest of his drink, but the bitterness stayed. Hours later, when Marcus arrived home, the apartment felt too quiet. Elena wasn't in the living room, not in the kitchen. Her usual mug sat rinsed beside the sink. He walked down the hallway, something cold settling under his ribs. Softly, he heard her voice from the bedroom. He moved closer. The door was cracked open just enough for him to see Elena sitting on the edge of the bed, speaking on the phone in a hushed tone. He heard a name that made his blood run cold. "Yes, Attorney Hale. I'm ready to finalize everything. Thank you." Marcus froze. Attorney Hale? Why was she speaking quietly? Why hadn't she told him she needed a lawyer for anything? He didn't know Hale was the attorney in charge of her inheritance. He didn't know she was tying up estate paperwork, not plotting a secret attack on him. His mind connected the worst possible dots. What was she planning behind his back? Was David right? Was Riley right? Was Elena already speaking to a lawyer to protect herself from him? He didn't know what the call was about, but he assumed the worst. His heartbeat thudded in his ears. Elena ended the call and sighed, unaware he had been standing there. Marcus stepped back into the shadows, eyes dark with suspicion. A new belief formed inside him. She was hiding something. Something big. Something dangerous. And that belief, this quiet whisper of doubt, would grow into something strong enough to destroy everything. Far away, Riley smiled at her phone as she typed another message, one that would push Marcus even closer to a decision he could never take back. Marcus slammed his car door harder than he meant to. The sound echoed through the parking lot with a violence he didn't recognize in himself not until now. His hands still shook from what he'd overheard the night before. Elena whispering to Attorney Hale. Elena hiding a phone call. Elena keeping secrets. Today, he needed answers. Or at least someone to tell him he wasn't crazy. That someone was Riley Adams. Riley, 28. Confident, sharp, professionally polished, waited for him at the small outdoor cafe near their office. She always seemed too put together for a normal workday, but Marcus never questioned it. He saw her as a friend, a supportive coworker. The audience understood more. Riley was skilled at emotional manipulation. Marcus sat down quickly. Thanks for meeting me. Riley leaned forward, eyes wide with concern. You sounded upset. What happened? Her tone was soft, careful, the kind of voice that made people lower their guard. Marcus didn't hold back. I heard Elena on the phone, with a lawyer, Attorney Hale. She never told me she had a lawyer. Riley didn't react with surprise. She reacted with something worse, quiet understanding. Oh, Marcus, she whispered. I'm so sorry. That's not good. He let out a shaky breath. She didn't say anything about needing a lawyer. She just hid it. Riley reached across the table and touched his hand gently. Calculated. Men need to protect themselves, she said. Especially smart men like you. You worked your way up from nothing. You save. You plan. You trust too easily. Marcus swallowed hard. She said his name like she's been talking to him for a long time. Riley nodded slowly, lifting her cup as if weighing her next words. If Elena really loves you, she said, she'll have no problem with total honesty, with boundaries, with protecting what you've built. That's why people sign prenups. The word hit Marcus like a stone. A prenup? He asked. Riley shrugged lightly. It's normal, Marcus, especially after what Sabrina did to you. She held his gaze. If Elena has nothing to hide, she'll sign without making a scene. Reflection settled over him like a fog. He replayed David's warning, Riley's late-night texts, Elena's secret phone call. The old image of Sabrina walking out with his savings. Why was everyone seeing danger except him? Why was he defending Elena when she was hiding things? Riley continued gently. Look, I'm not saying she is using you. I'm saying you don't know that she isn't. You're talking about a lifetime. Protect yourself. If she truly loves you for you, a prenup won't scare her. Marcus stared down at the table, heat rising in his chest. Fear, hurt, suspicion, all mixing into something more dangerous. Certainty. Elena was hiding something big. Something involving a lawyer. Something she clearly didn't trust him enough to share. Riley watched his reaction, eyes glimmering with quiet satisfaction. The seed was now rooted. You deserve someone who's with you for the right reasons, she added softly. You deserve honesty, Marcus, not secrets. He nodded, almost absently. You're right. He didn't notice the small smile Riley hid behind her coffee cup. That night, Marcus lay awake long after the apartment went dark. Elena slept peacefully beside him, unaware of the war forming in his chest. Riley's words spun in his head. If she loves you, she won't mind a prenup. He reached for his phone, restless. A message from Riley appeared. Riley. Thought this might help you think more clearly. Attached was a link to an article titled, Gold Diggers, 10 Signs You're Dating One. Marcus clicked. His heartbeat pounded as he read each line. Overly private about money. Keeps financial history hidden. Rarely discusses family background. Moves quickly toward commitment. Seems too perfect and avoids conflict. Every point felt like it was written about Elena. He conveniently ignored the parts that didn't fit, like the fact she never asked for money. He didn't question it. He wanted to believe it. It made sense of all the fear he'd buried. By the time he reached the bottom of the page, his belief had hardened. Elena might be using him. He closed his eyes, exhaustion pulling him into restless sleep. In the back of his mind, a cold decision formed. By sunrise, his suspicions had turned to resolve. He would protect himself. He would test her love. And the first test would change everything. As Marcus left for work that morning, he typed one message to Riley. How do you bring up a prenup? Riley's reply came instantly. Leave that to me. I'll help you word it so she has no excuse. Riley's carefully chosen words would soon land on Elena's kitchen table, printed, stapled, and weaponized as a test of love. Marcus dropped the folder onto the kitchen table so hard the sound cracked through the entire apartment. Elena jumped, startled, the spoon in her hand slipping and clattering onto the counter. The air turned instantly tense, sharp, heavy, suffocating. Sign this, Marcus said. His voice wasn't loud, but the coldness in it was louder than any shout. Elena stared at the folder. A document. Thick. Formal. Threatening. What is this? She whispered. Marcus didn't blink. A prenup. Riley's cousin is a lawyer. She helped draft it. He nudged the folder toward her. If you're really here for love, prove it. The intensity hit her like a storm. 5 days before the wedding, 5 days before she vowed her life to him, and he was questioning her love. David, Marcus's best friend, leaned against the doorway with his arms crossed, watching like a guard. His expression made it clear he supported this. He had helped fuel the fear that led to this moment. This wasn't just a request, it was an accusation. Elena swallowed, heart pounding. Marcus, why now? Why this? Marcus pulled out a chair and sat, elbows on the table, eyes sharp and wounded. You're secretive, Elena, he said. You hide your past, your family, your money. I heard you talking to a lawyer behind my back. What else are you planning? Her breath caught. He must have overheard the call with Attorney Hale about finalizing her inheritance paperwork. That call had nothing to do with him. But she knew how it looked. She stepped closer, voice trembling. Marcus, that call. I don't care what excuse you make. He cut in. I'm not going to be used again. You want to marry me? Protect what I've built. If you don't sign this, I'll know why, David added in a low tone. It's normal, Elena. If you plan on staying forever, a prenup shouldn't bother you. My cousin signed one. It's just smart. The pressure closed around her like a tightening fist. Reflection began to shape the moment. Slow, emotional, painful. Elena looked at Marcus. Really looked at him. The man she'd loved for 2 years. The man she trusted. The man who once held her when she cried at night. Now she saw something different in his eyes. Fear, distrust, control. She understood his wound from Sabrina still lived inside him. She understood his history made him cling to protection. But understanding didn't stop the hurt. Her voice shook. Marcus, do you truly think I'm with you for money? He exhaled, looking away. I don't know anymore. The words sliced straight through her. She sat down. Her hands hovered over the document. The pages blurred as memories filled her mind. Flashback, gentle, warm, distant. Her mother brushing her hair when she was little. Marriage requires sacrifice, sweetheart, her mother had said. You give, even when it hurts, if the love is real. But never forget you deserve to be safe too. Elena closed her eyes for a moment. Was this sacrifice? Or was this the first sign that love had turned into fear? For a brief second, she imagined telling him everything about the inheritance, the estate, Attorney Hale, the warning from her father. But the image of Marcus's face changing when he heard 200 million made her stomach twist. If he doubted her now, what would he do if he knew the truth? He wouldn't see her anymore. He would see the money, exactly what her father had warned her about. She opened the folder. The terms were clearly tilted toward him. His future income protected, his small savings ring-fenced, her potential contributions treated as optional support. One clause, highlighted in bold, stood out. If the husband commits adultery, this agreement is void and unenforceable. Marcus had specifically asked for that line to be included. It was the only part he'd personally insisted the lawyer add. Riley's cousin said this makes it fair, Marcus muttered, as if reading her thoughts. You get reassurance I won't cheat. I get reassurance you're not after my money. It was twisted logic, but she could see how he believed it. Elena picked up the pen. Can I have Attorney Hale review this? She asked softly, clinging to one last bit of caution. Marcus's jaw tightened. So he can convince you not to sign? No, I'm not going through that. We don't have time. Either you trust me or you don't. If this is about love, you don't need a lawyer between us. David glanced away, uncomfortable, but said nothing. It was unfair. It was pressure. It was a choice she shouldn't have had to make. She signed her name slowly, each letter drawn with pain, not weakness, but devotion. She was signing because she loved him, because she believed they could still find their way back, because she wanted peace more than pride. When she finished, she slid the folder toward him. There, she whispered. I signed it. For a moment, Marcus looked relieved. Not joyful relieved, like a man who had installed a lock on a door. But something inside Elena shifted. A quiet crack, a fracture in the foundation. David patted Marcus's shoulder. Good call, man. Elena stood slowly, her hands still shook. But she didn't cry. Her eyes simply held less light than before. Later that night, Marcus's phone buzzed. Riley. So? Did she sign? Good. Now she can't take anything from you. You did the smart thing. Marcus foolishly felt comfort in those words. Elena, sitting alone on the couch, stared down at her hands and wondered, if he distrusted her before the wedding, what would marriage look like afterward? Far from Elena's sight, Marcus received one more message, one that hinted he would soon start spending more nights away from home. The wedding day should have begun with joy, but instead, a quiet intensity followed Elena like a shadow. As guests clapped and music played, Elena threw her arms around Marcus in a loving embrace. His body stiffened beneath her touch, his arms wrapped around her too slowly, too lightly, like he was hugging someone he wasn't sure he trusted. It was the kind of coldness that didn't need words. It stabbed right through her dress, right through her chest. The crowd never noticed. But Elena felt it immediately. In the photos, she glowed naturally, her smile soft and genuine. Marcus smiled too, but with effort, like a man playing a role he wasn't sure he believed in anymore. Between shots, his eyes drifted away, scanning the crowd, his phone, anything but her. The camera captured the image, not the truth. After the rush of the ceremony, intensity slowly melted into a heavy reflection. On the honeymoon, Elena tried to reach him. She reached for his hand. He pulled away to check messages. She moved closer on the bed. He rolled to the other side, claiming he was tired. She tried to talk about their future children, a house, simple dreams. He nodded along, but his eyes stayed distant. Marcus Ward, once warm and attentive, was now guarded, living behind a wall she couldn't see over. She tried to explain it away. Nerves, stress, fear of marriage after his past heartbreak. She reminded herself of her mother's words. Marriage requires sacrifice, so she decided to love him harder. But over the months after they returned home, everything got worse. Marcus stayed late at work almost every night, sometimes until midnight. Sometimes later, he started checking their shared bank app daily. He questioned every small purchase Elena made. A coffee again? Why did you buy this book? Do you really need this dress? At first his tone was curious. Soon it turned harsh. You know money doesn't grow on trees, right? We have to be careful. Elena began to feel watched, measured, judged for existing. She stopped buying small treats, stopped taking cabs, stopped doing anything that could be too much. It never eased his suspicion. The distance grew. He stopped kissing her goodnight, stopped sitting beside her on the couch, stopped asking how her day went. He didn't even look at her the same. Gentle, patient Elena felt her heart slowly dimming, like a candle running out of air. Then came Mrs. Porter. One late afternoon, Elena trimmed the flowers on their porch to calm her nerves. Mrs. Porter, their older neighbor with kind eyes and a warm voice, walked over. Elena, dear, she said softly, I don't want to cause trouble, but I saw Marcus getting out of a woman's car the other night. The scissors slipped from Elena's fingers. A woman's car? She repeated weakly. Mrs. Porter nodded, worry in her eyes. Blonde, young, dressed sharp. She dropped him right at your driveway. It wasn't just once. Truth, gently spoken, but it hit like a blow. Elena swallowed, forcing a small smile. Thank you for telling me. As soon as Mrs. Porter left, Elena's world began to tilt. Suspicion, once Marcus's torment, was now hers. She remembered. The prenup, the accusations, the coldness, the nights he stayed out, working, the way he snapped when she asked questions. Had all of that come from guilt? From his own secrets? From someone else? Elena walked back into the house, her legs trembling. She sat on the edge of the couch, breathing through the storm inside her. Had she failed him? Had marriage changed him? Was he unhappy? Or worse, was he unfaithful? The next morning, desperation drove her to look for answers. Marcus had rushed out for work, somehow forgetting his car keys. His car sat quietly in the garage. He'd taken a ride with someone from the office. Elena hesitated only a moment before opening the driver's door. She wasn't snooping for fun. She was trying to survive the not knowing. Inside, everything looked normal until she saw the passenger seat. A coffee cup, bright red lipstick smeared along the rim. Elena's heart stopped. She didn't wear lipstick. She never had. She didn't even own a shade that bright. Her knees weakened. The air left her lungs. Her fingers trembled as she picked up the cup and stared at it. The lipstick stain sat there like a taunt. This wasn't suspicion. This was evidence. Somewhere deep inside, something cracked. In the quiet of the garage, Elena whispered, her voice breaking. Who were you with, Marcus? Far from home, Marcus laughed at a message from Riley, unaware that Elena had just discovered the first undeniable crack in their marriage. The moment Marcus stepped through the front door, the air changed. He dropped his keys on the counter with a loud clang that made Elena flinch. She had been pacing for almost an hour, the lipstick-stained coffee cup clutched in her hand like a piece of evidence she wished didn't exist. Marcus, she said, voice trembling. We need to talk. He sighed, already irritated. What now? She held out the cup. Whose lipstick is this? Instant tension. Marcus's jaw tightened. His eyes flicked from the red stain to her face, then away. He didn't answer. Elena swallowed, forcing herself to stand her ground. Mrs. Porter told me she saw a blonde woman dropping you off several times. I found this in your car this morning. Marcus, I don't wear lipstick, and I've seen the name Riley pop up on your phone at night for weeks. His head snapped up. Are you going through my phone now? He snapped. I saw the notifications when you left it on the table, she said softly. I never opened them. But I'm not stupid. Marcus, are you seeing someone? That question detonated everything. Marcus stepped closer, anger flaring. Are you accusing me again? After everything I've done for you? Elena's eyes widened. I'm not accusing you. I'm asking you. There's a difference. Oh, don't play innocent, he shot back. You've been playing your own game since the beginning. She stared at him, confused. What game? He laughed bitterly. That prenup you signed so fast? You think that didn't bother me? That was too easy. You didn't even fight it. You're hiding something, Elena. You were always hiding something. The secret phone calls, the lawyer, Attorney Hale. You think I forgot? Elena's voice broke. I signed because you asked me to, because I loved you. I tried to show you I wasn't after your money. He took another step toward her, eyes blazing. Exactly. You signed too easily. You think I don't see through that? You probably have some angle. Some loophole we don't see yet. You and that lawyer of yours. You're not fooling me. Elena stepped back, heart pounding. Marcus, there is no angle. Attorney Hale handles my family affairs. He's been in my life since my father died. That's all. Yeah? Then why the secret calls? Why the whispering? Why the lies? His voice rose. You're hiding your past, your money, everything. And now you're trying to flip this on me because of a stupid cup? Tears gathered in her eyes. It's not just the cup. It's the late nights, the distance, the way you look at me like I'm your enemy. And yes, the messages from Riley. Her voice steadied. Who is Riley, Marcus? The name hit him like a match to gasoline. His expression twisted. You don't get to interrogate me, he snapped. Not when you're the one hiding things. You were talking to a lawyer before our wedding. You were planning something before we even got married. I was finishing paperwork that has nothing to do with you." She cried. "I shouldn't have to defend every breath I take." "Oh, please," he barked. "You expect me to believe you signed that prenup with no plan? You're smarter than that. You and Hale are probably sitting there laughing at how you'll turn this around later." Elena's shoulders shook. She took one more small step back. "Marcus, what happened to you?" she whispered. "You used to trust me. You used to be kind." His voice dropped to a cold hiss. I woke up. "That's what happened." She tried one last time. "Just tell me the truth. Are you cheating on me? Is Riley the woman Mrs. Porter saw? Is she the one in your car?" He snapped. His hand flew before his mind caught up. The slap landed hard across her cheek, the sound cracking through the hallway like thunder. Elena stumbled backward, her back hitting the wall before she slid to the floor, her hand flying to her face in shock. The pain was sharp, but the betrayal was worse. Above them, a small red light blinked steadily. The hallway camera, installed by Marcus himself for safety, back when they first moved in. He had insisted on it to protect her. Now that same camera recorded everything: his anger, her fall, the whole truth. Elena's breathing shook as Marcus glared down at her. "You don't question me," he hissed. "Not when you're the one hiding things." He grabbed his coat, turned, and stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frame. Silence rushed in, almost deafening. A moment later, footsteps sounded from the stairwell. Elena flinched, but it wasn't Marcus who returned. It was Daniel, the building's security officer, a kind man in his early 42s who handled maintenance and camera checks. He'd been in the security room doing his scheduled review when the audio spike from their hallway camera triggered an alert. He'd replayed the clip, seen the slap, and rushed upstairs. He stopped short when he saw her on the floor. "Ma'am, are you okay?" he asked softly. Elena wiped at her tears with the back of her hand. I'm fine." Daniel glanced up at the camera, then back at her, his jaw tight. "Mrs. Ward," he said carefully, "the camera recorded everything. We have the footage backed up in the building system. Do you want me to save a protected copy, in case you need it?" The question hung in the air like a crossroads. Elena took a long, trembling breath. Her eyes hardened not in hatred, but in resolve. "Yes," she said quietly. "Save all of it, please. Make sure it can't be deleted." Daniel nodded. "I'll lock it and keep it on a separate drive. If you ever need it, just ask." He left her with a sympathetic look. Elena stayed on the floor for a long moment, fingers pressed to her burning cheek. The woman who signed a prenup out of love now had the first true weapon of protection in her hands, even if it was just a saved file she hadn't seen yet. Her phone buzzed beside her, a message from Attorney Hale. "Elena, just checking in before your first anniversary. If anything feels wrong or unsafe at home, remember you're not alone. Call me." Her thumb hovered over the call button. Her marriage had just crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. By the time Elena finally dialed Hale, Marcus would return not with an apology, but with papers that tried to erase her completely. Marcus didn't knock. He pushed the door open with so much force that it slammed into the stopper. Elena, who had been sitting on the couch with an ice pack pressed to her cheek, jerked upright. He didn't ask how she was. He didn't look at the bruise he'd caused. He didn't say he was sorry. Instead, he tossed a stack of papers onto the coffee table so violently they slid almost off the edge. "I've started the divorce process," Marcus said flatly. "My lawyer already filed the petition. I brought your copy. Sign where they told me you need to sign." The word divorce rang in her ears. Elena stared down at the documents. Her name, his name, petition for dissolution of marriage. It didn't shock her as much as the way he said it, like this was paperwork for a broken appliance, not a broken marriage. "Marcus," her voice came out small. "You filed already?" He shrugged. Cold. "I spoke to a real lawyer, not some sneaky one like yours. Riley's cousin recommended someone better. We're done, Elena. Riley and I are moving in together. I'm not going to waste any more time." The words landed like stones. "Riley and I." He said it like they'd been a team for a long time. Elena swallowed past the lump in her throat. How long have you been seeing her? Marcus rolled his eyes. Don't make this dramatic. We got close after you started acting suspicious. She was there when you weren't honest with me. At least she doesn't hide everything. Elena's grip tightened on the ice pack. I never lied to you. You talked to a lawyer behind my back, he snapped. You signed the prenup too easily. You showed me exactly who you were. She stared at him, stunned. In his head, her sacrifice had become proof she was dangerous. He waved vaguely toward the hallway. And now you're playing the victim. I'm not doing this. I know you, Elena. You're probably collecting things against me. You think that bruise is going to win you something? The mention of the bruise made her stomach twist. Her voice steadied. You hit me, Marcus. Don't exaggerate, he replied. We were arguing. You pushed. I reacted. And I'm sure your little security friend will be happy to twist the video for you. He didn't know Daniel had already locked the footage to protect the truth, not him. Marcus tapped the top page of the stack. Anyway, you agreed to the prenup, so don't expect anything. You walk away with nothing. I keep what I've built. That's the deal. You'll sign these, and this will be over faster. Reflection slowed the moment. Elena looked at the man standing in front of her. This was her husband, the man she'd cooked for, laughed with, trusted. The man she defended when friends raised subtle red flags. The same man now standing in her living room, declaring he had already replaced her and that she deserved nothing. She realized something painful but clear. Marcus didn't want the truth. He wanted the version of the story that made him feel like the victim. How can you say Riley supports you? She asked quietly. When she helped you cheat. His eyes flashed. Don't talk about her like that. Riley believes in me. She doesn't question me every second. She doesn't hide lawyers and secrets. Elena breathed in slowly. You slapped me, she said, not accusing, just stating a fact. You used our money to spend time with another woman, and you still think I'm the problem. Sign the papers, he replied, ignoring her words. My lawyer said if you don't fight this, it will be simple. If you try anything, it gets ugly, and you won't win. The prenup covers me. You made sure of that when you signed. He moved toward the door, hand on the handle, then paused. Oh, and Elena. His voice turned razor sharp. Don't embarrass yourself in court. You don't have the money, the power, or the proof to beat me. Walk away quietly. It's your best option. Then he left. The door closed behind him with a final, hollow sound. For a long moment, Elena didn't move. The silence pressed in, but something inside her had shifted since the slap. The old version of her would have curled into herself and wondered what she'd done wrong. This Elena reached up and gently touched the fading bruise on her cheek. He thought she had no money. He thought she had no power. He thought she had no proof. He was wrong on all three. She picked up her phone with steady hands and scrolled to Hale's name. He answered on the second ring. Elena? I was just about to call you back. Are you all right? Her voice was quiet but unbreakable. No, I'm not. Marcus hit me. He's been cheating. He's filed for divorce and thinks the prenup protects him. A pause. Then Hale's voice hardened. Do you still have the building footage? Yes. Daniel saved it. And I have the prenup. And the texts I've seen from Riley. And the joint bank records. Hale exhaled slowly. Then it's time. We're not just going to defend you. We're going to show the court who he really is. Prepare everything, Elena said. I'm done trying to save this marriage. On the other end, Hale opened a file and slid several labeled folders into a single binder. One tab at the front read, Evidence Confidential. While Marcus and Riley celebrated their fresh start, Hale and his team began constructing a case that would tear his false confidence apart in front of everyone. 3 weeks later, Attorney Hale slammed a thick binder onto the conference table. The sound echoed through his quiet office with fierce intensity. Elena, he said firmly. We've used every day since Marcus filed. We're ready. The urgency in his voice snapped the room into focus. Elena sat across from him, posture straight, eyes steady. The bruise on her cheek had faded, but the memory hadn't. She no longer looked like the woman who signed the prenup out of fear of losing love. She looked like someone who had decided she would never beg for trust again. Clara Bennett sat at her side, professional and calm, a neat stack of documents in front of her. She had brought full records of the Turner family estate, complete with clear proof the $200 million inheritance was held in Elena's name alone, legally separate property from any marriage. A knock at the door opened the next phase. A tall, steady man in his late 42s stepped in, wearing a simple blazer and a small badge clipped at his belt. "Elena, this is Victor Morgan," Hale said. "Licensed private investigator, ex-detective. I brought him in as soon as you said, prepare everything." Morgan placed a small flash drive on the table. "I've gathered what you asked for. Texts, photos, hotel records, timelines. All obtained legally either from accounts where Mrs. Ward had access or through subpoenas approved in the divorce proceedings." Hale nodded. "Let's go through it piece by piece." Reflection wrapped around the room as they began. Morgan plugged the drive into the large screen. First, text messages. Exchanges between Marcus and Riley. "She won't matter soon. I can't wait until this divorce is over. I used our money for the hotel, don't worry. She never checks. Once the prenup holds, she walks with nothing." Elena's throat tightened, but her eyes stayed clear. Second, photos. Time-stamped images from the investigators' surveillance and hotel security. Marcus and Riley entering a hotel. Marcus and Riley leaving hours later. Marcus signing receipts with the same joint card he shared with Elena. Hale tapped the table. "This isn't just infidelity. It's financial misuse. He used marital funds to sustain an affair. That's misconduct." Third, bank records. Clara slid forward a folder with highlighted statements. "These are your joint accounts," Clara explained. "We matched withdrawals and card charges with the dates and locations Morgan provided. Multiple charges line up exactly with the hotel bills and restaurant tabs when he was with Riley." Hale nodded. "This strengthens our claim of fraud and financial abuse." Elena closed her eyes briefly. She remembered the night she'd sat alone, worrying if she bought a coffee. Meanwhile, he was using their joint money on another woman. It wasn't just betrayal. It was humiliation. The door opened again. Daniel entered, holding a USB drive and a logbook. He looked at Elena with quiet concern. "I have the footage you asked me to lock," he said. "It's been stored safely since the night it happened," Daniel added. "No one else has touched it." Hale took the drive. "Thank you, Daniel. Your caution may have saved this case." He inserted the drive. The hallway video played on the large screen, Marcus shouting. Elena asking, "Who is Riley?" The slap. Her fall. Clara gasped softly. Morgan's jaw tightened. Hale's eyes hardened. "This," Hale said, "is clear, unedited proof of domestic violence." Daniel opened the logbook. "These are the entry code changes Mr. Ward made. You can see he changed the code multiple times, usually the same day your system recorded arguments or loud noise. Mrs. Ward wasn't informed of the new code right away. It shows controlling behavior. Everything was forming a single, undeniable picture. Finally, Mrs. Porter arrived. She walked in with her handbag held close, nervous but determined. "Elena, dear," she said, sitting down. "I hope I'm not overstepping. I want to tell the truth." Hale smiled gently. "Your honesty is a big help, ma'am. Can you tell us what you saw?" Mrs. Porter folded her hands. "I saw that young woman, Riley, drop Marcus off several evenings. Late. She was always laughing with him. They looked close. I didn't want to get involved before, but after I saw your cheek." Her voice trembled. "I couldn't stay quiet." Elena reached over and squeezed her hand. "Thank you for standing up for me." When Mrs. Porter left, Hale opened the binder to a tab labeled Prenup. He flipped to a highlighted section and spun the binder so Elena could see it. "Here it is," he said. "The clause he insisted on. If the husband commits adultery, this agreement is void and unenforceable." By signing this, Marcus agreed that cheating would destroy his own protection. Clara added, "And since your inheritance has always been separate property, he never had a legal claim to it anyway. With the prenup voided, he also loses any leverage over your marital assets." Elena stared at the line for a moment. "He thought the prenup protected him," she murmured. Hale met her eyes. "He built a cage for you and then climbed inside it himself." Silence followed, not heavy with fear, but with power. Elena straightened. File everything. I don't want revenge. I want the truth on record. We already filed the divorce response and the request for protective orders, Hale said. The criminal complaint for assault and financial fraud has been forwarded to the prosecutor. Tomorrow is the hearing. Morgan picked up his notebook and paused at the door. There's one last piece I haven't shown you yet, he said. I got it 2 nights ago. It ties everything together, his intent, his attitude, the prenup, the cheating. Elena frowned slightly. What is it? Morgan gave a small, knowing smile. You'll see it when the judge sees it. It'll land harder that way. In another part of town, Marcus and Riley clinked glasses to fresh starts, unaware that a single recording Morgan captured at a bar would soon play in open court and shatter what little remained of Marcus's image. The courtroom buzzed with low murmurs until the doors swung open. Marcus walked in, wearing a stiff suit and forced confidence. Riley clung to his arm, her expression smug, as if she believed today would prove Elena bitter and defeated. The intensity shifted the moment they entered. Spectators whispered. A couple of local reporters adjusted their recorders. Judge Ramirez glanced up from the bench, eyes sharp. At the opposite table, Elena sat beside Attorney Hale. She wore a simple outfit, hair neatly tied back, no flashy jewelry. The faint mark on her cheek was still visible, not hidden but not exaggerated either. She wasn't there to perform. She was there to be heard. She didn't look at Marcus. She didn't need to. Judge Ramirez tapped the gavel once. Court is now in session. This hearing covers the Ward divorce petition, property division, and the request for a protective order. The criminal charges of assault and financial fraud have been filed separately, but the evidence presented today will inform both matters. Because the same events led to both the divorce and the criminal case, the court had scheduled the family hearing and the early stage of the criminal matter back-to-back in this single session. A prosecutor sat in the row behind Elena's side, legal pad in hand, watching closely. Marcus leaned toward Riley and muttered, "This is formality. I'll walk out fine." Riley gave a confident half-smile. "You have the prenup. Relax." Judge Ramirez looked toward Hale. "Counsel, you may proceed." Hale rose. "Your Honor, we will show clear evidence that Marcus Ward committed ongoing adultery, financial misconduct, and physical violence against his wife, Elena Ward. We will also show that by the terms of his own prenuptial agreement, these actions void the protections he believed he had." Marcus scoffed loudly. "This is blown out of—" The judge cut him off with a glare. "Mr. Ward, you will remain silent unless addressed. Understood?" His jaw clenched. "Yes, Your Honor." Hale clicked a remote. On the large screen, the hallway video appeared. Marcus yelling, Elena asking, "Who is Riley?" The slap, her fall to the floor. The sound echoed through the courtroom. Gasps broke out. Riley's color drained. Marcus shifted, suddenly smaller in his chair. Elena did not flinch. She had already lived this moment. Now it was everyone else's turn. Hale spoke calmly. This footage was recorded by Mr. Ward's own security system and preserved by the building officer, Daniel Smith, at Mrs. Ward's request. No edits. No manipulation, Daniel testified briefly, confirming the chain of custody and the fact that Marcus installed the cameras himself for safety. Judge Ramirez's voice grew cold. "Mr. Ward, that looks like clear physical assault," Marcus stammered. "It was just an argument." "An argument does not justify violence," the judge replied. "You will remain quiet." Next, Hale displayed screenshots of text messages between Marcus and Riley. "She won't matter soon. Once the prenup holds, she walks with nothing. I used our money for the hotel. She doesn't check." Riley shifted away from Marcus, her fingers curling. The prosecutor scribbled quickly, then came the photos. Marcus and Riley at a hotel, timestamps aligning with nights he'd told Elena he was working late. Marcus paying bills with the same joint card he criticized Elena for using on coffee. Mrs. Porter testified, voice shaking but honest, describing the nights she saw Riley drop Marcus off. Daniel testified about code changes and patterns of control. Hale then opened a physical copy of the prenup. Your Honor, this is the prenuptial agreement Mr. Ward demanded 5 days before the wedding. There is a key clause here. He read clearly. If the husband commits adultery, this agreement is void and unenforceable. Hale continued. We've presented clear evidence of ongoing adultery and financial misconduct. Under the terms of this clause, written and signed by Mr. Prenup, Ward, the prenup cannot protect him. Marcus's composure cracked. That's not what it. Judge Ramirez frowned. Your own document, your own terms, your own actions. This appears straightforward. Riley slid her arm away from his. Morgan stepped forward now, carrying a small speaker. Your Honor, Hale said, our investigator has one final piece of evidence he obtained lawfully in a public setting. Morgan added, I was seated at the next table, Your Honor. In this state, it's legal to record a conversation you're part of. Morgan plugged in the device and pressed play. Marcus's voice, clearly audible, filled the courtroom recorded at a bar where he'd met David. Look, man, I'm not stupid. I made her sign a prenup so tight she'll walk with nothing even if I cheat. Let her cry. I'm covered either way. Laughter. David's followed on the recording. You actually said you might cheat? David joked. Marcus's recorded voice. If I do, she can't touch me. That's what the papers are for. The room went completely silent. Hale let the words hang in the air. Intent, he said simply, in his own voice. Marcus's eyes widened. You recorded me? He hissed at David across the room. David sank lower in his seat, ashamed. I didn't. He did, he muttered, nodding toward Morgan. Judge Ramirez leaned forward. Mr. Ward, she said slowly, you not only cheated and abused your wife, but also openly bragged about using the legal system to trap her. The court is not amused. Hale finished calmly. Your Honor, Elena never married Marcus for money. She never even needed it. He turned toward Elena. Elena Ward is the sole heir to a $200 million estate. That inheritance existed before this marriage and was kept separate the entire time. She hid it not to deceive Mr. Ward, but to ensure she was loved as a person, not as a fortune. The courtroom erupted. Riley stared at Elena like she'd never seen her before. Marcus went pale. You're rich? He stammered. Elena, why didn't you tell me? We could have. She finally looked at him. When I loved you, I would have shared everything, she said softly. But you saw greed in my love, and love in your greed. That is why we're here. Judge Ramirez lifted the gavel. Given the evidence of adultery, financial misconduct, and domestic violence, the court rules as follows. The prenuptial agreement is void. Divorce is granted. The marital assets are awarded primarily to Mrs. Ward, with Mr. Ward receiving only what he can prove he contributed and did not misuse. Mrs. Ward's separate inheritance remains fully her own. Marcus sagged in his chair. The prosecutor stood. Your Honor, the state previously filed charges of domestic assault and financial fraud. In light of today's evidence, we request that Mr. Ward be remanded into custody pending trial. He has shown a willingness to manipulate systems for his benefit. Judge Ramirez nodded once. Request granted. Mr. Ward, your bail is revoked. You are remanded into custody. Two bailiffs approached. Cuffs clicked around Marcus's wrists. He twisted toward Elena, desperation replacing arrogance. Elena, please say something. Tell them you don't want this. We can fix it. Riley doesn't matter. It was a mistake. Riley stood abruptly, disgust in her eyes. Don't drag me into this. I didn't sign anything. I'm not going down with you. She hurried out of the courtroom. Elena stood slowly. She looked calm, unbroken. She didn't smile, didn't gloat. She simply turned away as Marcus was led out, crying and calling her name. Attorney Hale placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Elena, it's almost over, he said. But inside her, a quieter question rose not about Marcus, but about herself. What would she do with her freedom, her fortune, and her story now that justice had finally been served? The stack of final documents hit the table with a dull but decisive thud. Attorney Hale slid them toward Elena. "This is it," he said. "The last signatures. After this, the court's orders are fully processed, and your divorce is officially closed." The intensity wasn't loud anymore. It was heavy, final. Elena looked down at the papers. Her name, Marcus's name, references to orders already announced in court, division of assets, protective order, confirmation her inheritance was separate and untouched. A note from the prosecutor's office about victim input on sentencing. Her hand no longer shook when she reached for the pen. Hale studied her expression. "Before you sign, I have to ask. The prosecutor has requested your opinion. They will still make their decision, but your input matters. Do you want them to consider leniency for Marcus? Reduce sentencing? Lighter recommendations?" The question lingered in the air. Elena glanced at her hands. These were the same hands that had once signed a prenup to prove love. The same hands that had cooked meals for a man who doubted her. The same hands that had pressed against a bruised cheek, wondering how everything had gone wrong. She closed them into calm, steady fists, then relaxed them again. "No," she said quietly, but clearly. "I don't want leniency. I want the law to do its job. Nothing more, nothing less." Hale nodded slowly. "I'll relay that. The final say will be with the court, but your voice will be on record." Clara, seated on her other side, smiled gently. "You've done the hard part, Elena. You stood up for yourself." For the first time, Elena truly believed it. She signed. Stroke by stroke, she wrote her name this time not to bind herself to someone else's fear, but to close a chapter that had nearly crushed her. When the last page was done, Hale gathered the documents and clipped them together. "It's finished," he said, "on paper and in law." Reflection washed over her, warm and deep. She leaned back in her chair, eyes drifting toward the window. Sunlight fell across the office floor, soft and steady. No storm, no raised voices, no slammed doors. A memory rose to the surface. Her father, frail in his hospital bed, his hand squeezing hers. "Hide your wealth until you're sure his heart is true." At the time, she had believed love would be enough to prove someone's heart. She thought patience could cure jealousy, and sacrifice could erase someone's fear. Now she knew better. "I was right to hide it," she murmured. Not out of shame, not out of spite, but because she learned the truth the hard way. A heart that is determined to doubt, you will always find a reason, even if you give it everything. Clara touched her shoulder. "Ready to leave this place behind?" Elena smiled softly. "Yes, I'm ready." They walked together down the hallway, then parted at the elevator. Clara went to finalize some financial adjustments. Hale headed to file the paperwork and send the statement to the prosecutor. Elena stepped outside alone. The courthouse steps stretched below her. Above, the sky was clear, no clouds, no threat, just open blue. Each step she took felt like shedding a weight, a chapter closing, a new life beginning. At the bottom of the steps, she paused and let the breeze touch her face. She closed her eyes for a second and breathed, not the short, panicked breaths she'd grown used to, but a full, calm breath that reached the bottom of her lungs. She was free, free from suspicion, free from control, free from a man who never saw her worth until the world did. Somewhere behind her, in a holding cell, Marcus sat waiting for a future, decided not by what he thought he could get away with, but by what he'd actually done. Elena didn't look back, not once. She walked forward, already making silent promises to herself. Promises about how she would live, how she would love, how she would use the fortune she once hid. Maybe she would start a foundation for women leaving abusive relationships. Maybe she would fund legal support for people who had been silenced. Maybe she would tell her story in her own way, on her own terms. Her phone buzzed. A message from Hale. "There is one more matter we should discuss when you're ready. Not about Marcus, about your future, and what you want your money and your story to do in this world." Elena smiled, a small but real smile. For the first time, the unknown felt like possibility, not danger. She tucked her phone away and kept walking into a life where she chose the terms. And that's how Elena turned a story of suspicion and betrayal into one of justice and freedom. If this story moved you even a little, don't leave quietly. Like, share, and comment the biggest lesson you're taking away from Elena's journey. Tell me where you're watching from in the comments. See you in my next video.